got its second road win of the MLS season at long last, but the team made picking up those 3 points more difficult than it needed to be. Hello everybody, you are listening to Miami Total Football Radio, aka Miami Total Football Radio, the number one and most listened to Inter-Miami podcast, providing you all the latest news, updates, analysis, opinions, inside information, general punditry, and much more. We have been listened to in more than 50 countries and counting. My name is Franco Panizo. I am one of your usual hosts. Joining me are two other members of the team. Steve El Primo Brenner is still away dealing with other things, but we have the lovely tandem that is Jose Armando and Andrea Llanes, aka Island Jose and Ajicita. So, how are you guys? We'll start with Andrea. Ladies first. How are you today?
Hi guys, glad to be here. Glad to be talking about Inter Miami after they won a game. So let's do this. Let's get into it. And glad to be here with you guys to put you in cintura, both of you, because I was not on the past podcast, but I'm back. So
you are the star. You're the star. People are asking and clamoring for you, especially my cousins in England. My cousins in England love the integration of Ajicita to Miami Total Football Radio, as I'm sure many other listeners do as well. Jose, you're last but you're not least. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I mean, it's a great week when, we have so many games to talk about. I guess it's not great for the players. They must be exhausted. But, that's the best part of the game, right? Playing official matches. And so I'm ready to roll. I think I have a lot to say about the game on Wednesday. I was a little bit frustrated with it.
Well, there was definitely good elements about Wednesday's game. The defense took a step forward, but the attack left a lot to be desired given how many chances were wasted. So we will touch on all of that. We will also dive into the news that we got today, or the update that we got today that's not so positive for Leonardo Campana. It sounds like he may be out for some time with the injury that was picked up on Wednesday, so we'll talk about that as well. And of course, we'll preview this Saturday's game against CF Montreal. Yes, if you're wondering, we will also talk about the Twitter exchange that happened on Wednesday night after Inter Miami's late victory over the San Jose Earthquake. So, we've got a lot to talk about. Jose, Andrea, let's get to it. Okay, guys, so Inter Miami is victorious on the road. They beat the San Jose Earthquakes 1-0 with an early Jean Mota golazo in the 12th minute. A sensational strike. We will get to that in just a moment in a little more detail. This was the starting lineup for Inter Miami. Drake Callender was in goal. The team reverted to the 5-3-2, or the five-man backline, and then the formation was a 5-3-2. DeAndre Yedlin on the right, Robert Taylor on the left. Those were your wingbacks. And then your three center backs from right to left were Christopher McVeigh, Damian Lowe, and Kieran Gibbs. The midfield was comprised of Jean Mota, Gregory, and Alejandro Pozuelo. And up top, striker tandem, Gonzalo Higuain and Leonardo Campana, starting for one of very few times together this season. So the early goal is enough for Inter Miami. They get a clean sheet. They bounce back from that 8-goal draw against FC Cincinnati, where the defense was in shambles for good parts of that, with a clean sheet. The first one since, I'd have to pull up the exact date, but it's in just over 2 months. I believe late May was their last clean sheet, and their first road win since April, since they beat the Seattle Sounders 1-0 at earlier in the season. So
the under-16 Seattle Sounders.
It was not the I know you said it then, and I know you're repeating it now, but it was definitely not the under-16 Seattle Sounders. It was like a reserve team. There were some young players in there, but they were okay. Anyway, that was months ago. We are not reviewing that conversation. Now we'll stick on this game against the San Jose Earthquakes. let's start with actually before we dive into the game and the X's and O's. Let's dive into something that was newsworthy today that I mentioned in the intro part of the show. And that is that Leonardo Campana in this game against the San Jose Earthquakes exited with an injury. Looked like it was to his left leg. Now, we don't know if it was a thigh or a knee. I mean, we could speculate based on what we saw on TV, but we know it's a left leg injury. He went down to the ground or down to the field under his own power. Obviously, he has to have felt something there. Don't know if that came with contact with a center back or defender or another player of the San Jose Earthquakes on a different sequence, but nonetheless, he goes down under his own power. He has to be subbed off there in the first half. Phil Neville today on Friday, in previewing CF Montreal's game, said he thinks Campana could be out for a period of time. And Campana did not fly with the team to Montreal for this weekend's game. He instead flew back to South Florida, where he will undergo some scans. But judging from Phil Neville's comment and his tone, it looks like Campana may be out for a good bit, or at least for a few weeks, it's sounding like. We'll know more in a few days, but your thoughts on Campana's latest injury and what his absence means for the team. Jose.
Well, it's big, obviously. It's bad news. I understand that, Higuain right now is playing really, really well. And I think he showed it in the game in the midweek game against San Jose. But it's a big miss. I mean, I think it's the same scenario that I was thinking of early in the season when Campana took over. I knew at some point, with him playing so many games with no Higuain available at the time, that at some point it was going to be too much for him. I'm not saying that I expected for him to get injured, but I thought he would need some rest at some point. So I'm thinking exactly the same thing right now. Higuain might be able to take on the starting role, but at some point he's going to have a small injury, or he's going to have to, he's going to have yellow cards or a red card, or anything could happen that could prevent him from playing. And then you're out of a striker. So, Inter Miami is not that deep when it comes to strikers, and they're going to have to improvise. And I think that's the worst case scenario when you're fighting for the last spot in the playoffs. And so I think it's big. Hopefully, it's not too long. I don't know if Inter Miami can survive a month without Campana and still remain in the race. So yeah, it's going to be a challenge.
Andrea, your thoughts on on the outlook for Leonardo Campana's injury? Because, again, it doesn't sound all that promising.
No, it doesn't sound promising. Listen, when I saw it, I told Jose that it looked bad. When a player stops by himself, is that he felt something, and usually those injuries are muscular, and it's very complicated to take care of a muscular injury, especially if you have a tear. Hopefully in the scans they don't find a tear and Campana can come back. So if he's injured, hopefully he could get better before November, before the World Cup, and could also help his team. Inter Miami is gonna miss him. Listen, they are in a dire situation in attack, because we have talked about it in the podcast that they are missing finishing players. We talked about that. Now Gonzalo was having a good moment. He also had an injury. Mm-hmm. Now Corentin Jean is also injured, so they don't have strikers, natural strikers. They don't have. They're going to have to improvise. Phil talked about it in the media today. He said that maybe we could see Pozuelo, maybe we could see Emerson or Ariel Lassiter playing. But listen, those are not strikers, and we saw against San Jose that all of them missed clear opportunities to score. So it's gonna be difficult for Inter Miami to keep everyone fit and to keep Gonzalo fit, because also if now Campana is out, like maybe how Ariel was when Ariel had a muscular injury, he was out for more than a month. So if Campana is out for more than a month, you have to take care of Higuain. But now Phil is in an awkward position, so it's gonna be tough for Inter Miami, let me tell you, without Campana, to get to the playoffs, especially because they were sharing, at least until now, they were sharing until recently with Higuain that starting 9 position.
Let's stick on the injury at hand. Now, this injury happens to his left leg. Leonardo Campana in recent weeks was dealing with a right MCL injury, which is a ligament in the knee. So he was wearing a brace, and he recently returned to action from that. I will ask you this, because again, we don't know what the actual injury to the left leg is. We don't know. It could be muscular. We don't know yet, because Phil Neville didn't, even though he gave an update of sorts, he did not provide an exact diagnosis of what the injury is. So we don't know if it's the knee. We don't know if it's the muscle. We don't know. But should Campana have been playing, in your guys' opinion? Should he have been out there, given that he was dealing with a right MCL injury, that he clearly was not at 100%? Clearly he was not playing at 100% before this second injury. Obviously, if he's wearing a brace in certain games, or he's wearing a wrap, clearly he's not at 100%. Should he have been playing in these games? I'll go back to you, Andrea.
Well, I think, Miami needed him to play, and I guess he would have come out in the 16 minutes or something like that, because Phil said that he couldn't play 90 still, but he needed to play. The Miami needed 3 points, and I think it was a good choice to play. I've said it a lot of times, I like when they play with Gonzalo and Campana. So I think he had to play. In the position that Inter Miami had, he had to play.
Jose.
I don't know. I mean, listen, we need to. This is obviously an opinion with not a lot of information, because we don't know exactly what is going on. But my instinct will say no. I don't think he should have been playing. I mean, he didn't look 100%, and I think I told you this during training this week. With the World Cup coming. I understand that, for the team, he did things for the team. He played for the team because he knows the team needs him right now. But if you think big picture, I don't know. I always thought it was a little bit too risky, because, the brace was just too big for me. It was very concerning. Like, it basically, we only could see his knee and the upper leg also. I don't know. To me, it was too much. It was too much. And I don't know if these injuries are related to each other.
They are not. They are in different legs.
Yeah, right. But in that, right, Jose, I think Jose is going to make this point, in that if one leg is injured, your body, your mechanics, I'm not saying this is the case for Leonardo Campana. We don't know. We're not doctors. But your body can overcompensate with one leg, given that your other leg is injured. And that could is the key word, could be what happened here. Now, again, we don't know. We don't have enough information to say, yes, that is what happened here with 100% certainty, but it's a possibility. It's a possibility. I'm with you, Jose. I don't think Campana should have been playing. Like, I don't think he looked good in his return from injury in the games he played. Even before that, when we asked Phil Neville about Campana and where he stood, as the coach, he needs as many of the players available as possible, or as many players available as possible. But he also said, and this was before the game against FC Cincinnati, that Campana could not cut and could not make those soccer movements. He could run in a straight line because it's the outside ligament of the knee, and he had no problem with that. But the cutting and the shifting and the different moves you have to make when you play Futbol, that was difficult for Campana. So clearly he's not at 100%. And look, sometimes during different parts of the year, players are not at 100% and they play. But I think because of the injury that he had, I don't think he should have been playing. Again, I don't know if this injury is related to the right MCL injury that he had been dealing with, but it's possible. It is possible. But now for trying to think about the short term, it looks like Inter Miami might lose him for a longer term, which obviously isn't ideal for him. Campana isn't ideal for the team as well, because like you guys mentioned, it's one less striker option on a team that does not have very many at that position. So we'll see. We'll get more of an update next week. I fully expect Gonzalo Higuain to play this weekend. Yes, he did leave this match against the San Jose Earthquakes also with an injury. He looked a little bit dazed. Phil Neville, like you said, Andrea, said that he woke up a bit sore today, or was sore today, Friday, but I expect him to play on Saturday against CF Montreal, especially since, as Phil Neville said, Gonzalo Higuain is not in the concussion protocol.
And that's big.
That's big,
and
yeah. Because it looked like on the broadcast, they definitely see
they used
the
concussion.
They were checking him out. Yeah, they were checking him out.
But they used the concussion change in the game, so they got an extra substitution because Gonzalo came out as a concussion protocol. So that's why I asked him, because usually when they come out as a concussion protocol, they don't play the next game. So.
Well, they came out, because they were testing to see if he had a concussion. Now, if it's come out and he's passed all the tests and he doesn't have a concussion, then I believe he's just clear to play. I don't think there's a rule that says if you come out with a concussion scare and then it doesn't, and you prove not to have one, that you have to miss the next game. I think he just passed the whatever test they gave him, no concussion, so he's eligible to play this weekend. I fully expect him to play. All right.
Phil we have known Gonzalo to play through injuries.
I'm going to say one more thing here while we're on the topic of injuries here. I do think that maybe this staff, and because of the situation the team is in, and maybe their just overall approach to how they work, they might push the players a little too hard. That's just my personal opinion. Campana is an example for me, and there are other examples as well. Phil Neville today, Friday, said, he gave clarity and elaborated on what happened with Corentin Jean, who did not dress for this game after making his debut over the weekend. And he said that Coco trained on Sunday, so the day after the Cincinnati game, and that he felt something in his groin or his left adductor. And that, prevented him from being eligible to play on Wednesday. So clearly,
I don't think it's that much the training staff. I think maybe the players are not maybe accustomed to play in this heat, too many games.
But that's why the coaching staff has to manage it, though. The coaching staff has to manage
responsibility. So I don't think it's the training staff. Maybe I think the players, because you see the players that are being injured this year. Robbie Robinson has never played a season constantly in MLS.
Okay. And take Robbie out of it. Take Robbie out of it. Take Robbie out of it. Yes, there's injuries that happen through the course of a season. That's normal for any team in any sport.
And Campana also hasn't gotten any playing time last year.
Go back to the beginning of the year. Andrea, go back to the beginning of the year. Leonardo Campana and Emerson Rodriguez were both introduced at the same time. In preseason, I'm going to make you rattle your memory bank here. They both arrived at the same time in preseason. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we interviewed them both the same day, like when they were both introduced. Shortly thereafter, they both, during preseason, suffered injuries. Both of them. And yes, maybe they weren't fully fit, or maybe they didn't come in, in the conditioning that they should have been at, or physically where they needed to be at. But that's why the coaching staff is there to manage the workloads that each player has. And I think that maybe this team or this coaching staff pushes the players a little too hard, or because of the situation that they're in and the need for points and the need for wins and the lack of other options elsewhere, that they push the players a little too much. So that's just my opinion. So, you guys can agree or disagree, but I do think that could be something that needs to be looked at. Now, let's just switch gears to the actual game. Let's start with a positive. Jean Mota's golazo from distance. His first in MLS play this year. His second in an Inter Miami jersey. You have to remember he scored against Orlando City in the U.S. Open Cup match that they had earlier this year. Jose, what'd you think of that goal? Obviously, it stands as the game winner, so it proves decisive. But let's talk overall aesthetics as well as importance. Your thoughts on Jean Mota's golazo?
Well, yeah, it was a golazo. I mean, listen, it's a very good finish. I think we've seen Mota, try to score from outside the box several times. It's not always the shot that he wants, But this time, I mean, the placing was just perfect. I think the timing was right as well because Inter Miami did start um, having good rhythm, creating opportunities. They missed a couple of chances early on, and then I thought, oh my God, here we go again. They're going to have chances, they're going to miss them, and then San Jose is going to get back into this game because, I mean, San Jose, they didn't have a good start. First 20 minutes were just horrible from the home side. And so, yeah, it was perfect timing, golazo, and just exactly what the team needed. I don't know if this is something that we can expect every single night from Mota, but I mean, obviously, it's a confidence builder. Scoring his first MLS goal is something that I think he needed at some point in this season, and I was glad to see that.
How sweet do you think it felt for him? Because clearly we've seen it and we've jokingly talked about it, in the press box over the course of the season, as well as with our good friend Michelle Kaufman of the Miami Herald. We've talked about like if there's an Inter Miami bingo card, Gene Mota shot from distance is definitely one of the spaces at play there because normally you see him take a shot from distance, at least one per game, normally, and he hasn't had a whole lot of success. That hasn't stopped him from trying by and large, and in this one, he finally gets it. He pulls it off, and it's a heck of a strike, man, because he brings the ball down. It's cleared. There's a ball sent into the penalty area, San Jose Earthquakes' penalty area. It's cleared. He's able to bring it down with his left foot under little pressure, and then in a very quick movement, a very fluid movement, able to hit it with tres dedadinhos. I don't know how you say dedos in Portuguese, but he hits it with the outside part of his left foot, which is why we say tres dedos in Espanol, which would be, three toes. And he curls it. Well, it doesn't curl. It just kind of directs it into that top right corner where the spiders lay their eggs. A great goal for him, and obviously, again, it proves decisive, so Inter Miami comes out on top. Now this is where we go to the not-so-pretty part of the game, because that was a heck of a strike, but a lot of the other ones that Inter Miami had for much of the rest of the way were not. The team wasted chance after chance after chance. They could have put the San Jose Earthquakes away much, much earlier than having to suffer through until the 97th minute. I think there was 7 minutes of stoppage time given, or 6 minutes of stoppage time given. And they had to, clamp down and grit through waves of attack from the Earthquakes. Now, Jose, you said these teams were pretty even in your eyes when we previewed the game. Do you still think that? Because I don't. I told you I thought this was a winnable game for Inter Miami. Based on what we saw from the run of play, it was definitely a winnable game, and they won it. They could have won it by more. And I don't think that they're even in terms of where they are. Like, I see more individual talent and a more talented lineup or talented roster with Inter Miami than I do with the Earthquakes, because the Earthquakes had a lot of the ball. They were in Inter Miami's attacking half for large stretches, but they could never find a way to break down a solid defense and a very organized team. Compact, organized, and gritty. So, do you still think that the San Jose Earthquakes and Inter Miami are more or less in the same level?
Well, I would say this. I think Inter Miami created a lot of opportunities, more than what I expected. But at the same time, if you tell me that Inter Miami is going to have 10 chances against Montreal over the weekend, then I would expect them to score one or two, because, they just have trouble putting the ball in the back of the net. And so I still believe that the game was not, one that we could tell, Inter Miami was clearly the better team. I think the first 20 minutes, San Jose struggled. If that was the case for the full 90, and San Jose kept on playing at the level they played early on, then yes, I would agree that Inter Miami is a lot better. But I think in the second half, and maybe it's because the goals they missed. I mean, the last 20, 25 minutes, they had a lot of trouble, and they had a lot of trouble on set pieces, defending set pieces, by the way, which is something really, really interesting. I don't know if, with Sailor and Mavica being out, that plays a factor. on them not defending well set pieces. But they did create a lot of opportunities in the second half, San Jose, and I thought it wasn't even a match played. I mean, both teams had chances. Yes, Inter Miami could have finished earlier, and maybe with Adi Lassiter's shot, it's clear from the line. Maybe that's a dagger right there. The second goal could have been the dagger. But the reality,
Higuain had one too that he couldn't
yeah,
get. He gets by three defenders, and then the angle gets closed on him, and he's not able to pull the trigger or to unleash his shot in time to put it into the back of the net. Emerson Rodriguez also had multiple chances to ice this game, including one on a fantastic pass from Jovan Jones, but Emerson Rodriguez left a lot to be desired in this game. Pozuelo also had one look that he skied over the crossbar. He also could have put the game away. I mean, it's not just on any one player. This was a collective calamity in that second half. Like, I couldn't believe some of these chances didn't go in. Like, honestly, from my seat, I thought they would have put the game away. And the way that the amount of missed chances piled up, I was in awe. It was just two teams that were both struggling to do what they were trying to do, and it was like, well, who's going to be the worst one? Whoever is the least worst of the two in this aspect will win the game. And obviously, the Earthquakes were worse at trying to find a way to break down Inter Miami. They didn't really test Drake Callender all that much, despite having more of the ball, despite being in Inter Miami's attacking half. They just could never really find a way to break down Inter Miami's defense. That's obviously a testament to the organization and the job that the coaching staff did with that back line and with the game plan. The game plan worked. Jose, we talked about this on the preview pod as well. Did we expect Phil Neville to go more defensive minded? I told you yes. You said you didn't think so. You thought it would be much of the same, but they did go back to that 5-man back line, the 3 center back look. So, anything you want to add there?
yeah. I think it's really interesting because going to 5 in the back with Kieran Gibbs
as a center back,
in the lineup. I mean, I wouldn't say it's risky because I trust Kieran Gibbs. I think he's an MLS caliber player and maybe even higher at this point in his career still. So I trust him. I know he can handle that position. But, it makes me think about Robert Taylor. And I just want him to stay away from the Lewis Morgan scenario. Where you ask him to defend and you ask him to attack. And sometimes that's just too much. And so when I saw it initially, I thought there's no way he's going to do that to Taylor. Yedlin, I can see him doing it just because, when you play with 5 in the back, you think with defense and, if you're able to move forward, then that's the case. Okay, that's fine. But if you're not good offensively, that doesn't mean you're going to lose the game. If you're not good defensively, then yeah, you're in trouble. So it was really interesting, but I think it worked out. It worked out really, really well. And so, other than set pieces, that's the one thing that caught my attention. I think San Jose, that's the only part of the game that maybe San Jose was getting closer to scoring the equalizer. Other than that, I think it worked out really well.
Andrea, you had a call to take. This is what happens when you're a very important person. So you're back now. Just quickly tell us your thoughts on Inter Miami's wasteful finishing, because they, like I said earlier, I think you had already stepped out. They could have put this game away much earlier, and they could have cruised to the finish line much more comfortably, but they do not because they can't find that second goal. So what are your thoughts on the failure to finish and the failure to find a second goal, an insurance goal, while also noting, and again, It's not on any one player, but you have been a staunch defender of Emerson Rodriguez, and I cannot imagine that you will defend him after this performance.
Listen, I knew you were gonna say that because you were calling me out during the game. I want people to know that. But listen, Emerson, he couldn't. He had 3 opportunities that he could have scored, but also Campana had an opportunity that he should have scored. Ariel had 2 opportunities that he should have scored. Pozuelo had an opportunity that should have scored. Inter Miami could have won the game 5-0 easily if they scored all those chances. And I'm not talking about chances that are like the one that
No, these were
they
clear-cut chances.
from the line.
Yeah, these were like one-on-ones, clear looks, and yeah, it wasn't going in for them.
Exactly, and these chances they should have scored. So it is bad. Let me tell you, it is bad because you know that these players are good players. They have capacity. Not only the ones that I mentioned, but also Taylor, Indiana Vasilev, that is also available. Duke. Uh, all these players are good players, but they are lacking in finishing in that aspect of the game because they are not a nine. And then when you have a nine like Gonzalo, that you see that he scores in complicated plays, in good plays, then you get like, oh, the teammates should do better. But when you think about it, they only have Gonzalo and Campana as strikers. They don't have more strikers.
Yeah, well, hold on, Andrea, hold on. Because there are wingers and players in other positions, and maybe not Inter Miami, but in other teams in other parts of the world that are goal scorers. They have goals in their bag.
Yeah,
of
Franco, but that
skills.
that was made mainstream because of Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi. Before, you could be a winger and not score that much of a goal.
That's fine. If your responsibility on
Yeah.
given team is to get down the wing and cross the
Now,
ball,
in modern football, you ask for goals because of Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo and all of those players that we could name 1,000 players that play in the Premier League that are good wingers and score goals. But before, you could be a winger without having like 10 goals a season. So the
Yeah, but you're
problem is
thinking
But
of
now we are in 2022, Andrea. So tiene que tener gol si eres un extremo. If you're an attacking player, you have to have goals in your game. I mean, you don't have to. Sorry, I take that back. You don't have to have goals. But focusing on this game, you've got to put some of those goals away. And again, this is not on any one player. I only singled out Emerson because obviously we've had for very many pods and several weeks now, we've had debates about where we think he is. And I have said I think he's a very talented player, but that final bit, that piece in the final third, that is most crucial for an attacking player, that part is still missing for him. And he took a lot of rough touches that contributed to him not putting away these chances. He also hesitated and took too long on at least one opportunity. So there's definitely some polishing that needs to be worked on. That's something Phil Neville has said this year.
And that's what I was trying to say. That's a difference with a nine like Gonzalo, and maybe we compare them with Gonzalo because it's the nine, and with Campana it's the nine that the team have, but they don't have that natural ability like Gonzalo does. They don't have that foot to do stuff like Gonzalo
Well,
does.
I don't think it's fair though to compare them to.
Yeah, I'm not comparing them to
We are
them.
comparing them
No,
to
no, no,
Gonzalo
no, no.
because
I'm not.
we want
I'm
them
not.
to score goals.
I'm
We want
not.
them to score more goals. And Ariel has, I don't know how
Listen,
many goals
guys,
he has.
I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna tell you something.
Robert sorry, Robert Taylor
Roberto.
has 3
You can
goals.
call him Roberto. Higuain calls him Roberto.
Roberto, yes.
No,
Jose
not Jose.
Pollo,
Not, I
that
want to
is
hear
what I'm
Jose. I want to
calling
hear
them
Jose.
from now
Andrea,
on.
hold on. I want to hear Jose. Jose has a rebuttal there.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they are playing for Inter Miami. Inter Miami is not. They're not gonna have. Uh, they're not even going to have the best wingers in MLS. Not even in the Eastern Conference. I mean, it's that's the reality. I mean, when they started building this team, they got Ari Lassiter from Houston, and in Houston, he was not a big time player over there. So he came here looking for an opportunity, looking for minutes. And yes, he has shown good things, but I've been telling you guys since the start of the season, and you guys know that I wanted him to start, and I thought he deserved to start, but that's just the reality of him. He's not a finisher, so he's gonna miss goals, and same scenario with Emerson. He's
Yeah.
not Emerson right now. It's not like the top Philadelphia Union is dying to have Emerson Rodriguez on his roster. How many teams in MLS are dying right now to get Emerson Rodriguez? I mean, that's just a reality.
Okay,
I mean,
that's fair. That's
you're
fine.
gonna-
But you still have to expect professional players to put some of these chances away.
Yeah, Franco,
you
but
can't.
then you have Vasilev and Robert Taylor. They scored 2 goals, 1 goal in a match. They don't produce as much as they should in if you look at it at an angle of a modern football. But they bring other stuff to the game. The problem is that Inter Miami right now needs goals, and they don't have people to score.
Should some
And
of
they
these chances
should.
have been put away? Yes or no? Should some of these chances have been put away?
Yes, no, without a doubt, without a doubt,
100%.
without a doubt.
Yes.
Okay,
I
so
think, listen, I think especially the Ari Lassiter opportunity there, he cannot miss that. I mean, it's impossible. It's
it's
just
not impossible because it happened. He missed.
possible to miss. I mean, if he tries it again and he's in front of goal with only one defender and he tells me I'm gonna shoot this straight to the defender's head, I don't think he can do it. I mean, it's incredible the way he missed that. So, and I tweeted just like 15 minutes before he missed that opportunity that Iwain was playing really well, setting up a Campana early on. Second half, opening up the game through the wings. He, for the first time in the season, Iwain was playing as a 10 and he was being successful. And I tweeted, if Lassiter gets an opportunity, he cannot miss. He cannot miss. And that's exactly what he does. And I mean, Iwain was very unselfish because he could have taken that shot right there. But obviously, it was the right pass because Leicester was in front of goal with no goalkeeper. So he should have finished that. I mean,
He needed to place it a little bit better, and instead of placing it, he shoots it right at the middle, and the defender that got on the goal line, two defenders got on the goal line, he was able to clear it. If Lassiter picks up his head, or he's able to push that ball to the far corner or closer to the far post, it's a goal. But because he just shot it right in the middle, it was an easy-headed clearance.
Ariel is a winger and not a 9. He's not.
but
Andrea, you still have to expect to finish that. You have to listen.
Yeah,
Lassiter came into the game. Lassiter came into the
We're
game.
talking about that, but you're talking about giving that responsibility to a player that hasn't had it in all of his career. That is not he has not had that responsibility.
We're not asking
Emerson
Andrea. We're not asking him.
Not had that responsibility.
You're confusing.
Robert Taylor has not
Andrea,
had
tú
that
estás
responsibility.
confundiendo cosas. La estás confundiendo. You're confusing saying Ariel Lassiter is not a primary goal scoring threat on this team over the course of the season to one play. That play has to be finished. That play needs to end up in a goal. And if it doesn't, then there's things that need to be corrected. And look, and Ariel Lassiter came into this game as a substitute in the first half once Campana went down with the injury. And he got pulled in the second half. He was replaced because he was not doing a good enough job. There was another play in the second half where Drake Callender, he's making either remarkable strides or Nick Marsman's advice is working. I don't know. This was the first time I've seen this from Drake Callender, but Drake Callender distributed the ball, punted it upfield, and found a streaking Ariel Lassiter. It was like he played a quality through ball in behind the defense. And Ariel Lassiter was streaking in on goal one-on-one, and he over-dribbles. He pushes the ball too far ahead at one point, and the goalkeeper was able, the San Jose Earthquakes goalkeeper was able to grab the ball. So, wasted opportunity there as well. Again, this is not on one player, because Lassiter's not the only player that struggled in the final bit of the field in this one. Emerson had his struggles. You've mentioned the other players that have missed their chances. Gonzalo Higuain also missed one. So this was a team thing, but there are things that need to be improved, generally speaking, because some of these chances were golden opportunities, like point blank opportunities, and they just weren't put away. But nonetheless, Inter Miami was able to come out on top, thanks in large parts. We talked about Jean Mota's goal, but the defense bounces back in a big way.
Thanks, because San Jose is a bad team.
Well, they also switched to a back five, and they stayed organized and compact.
The first half, they didn't have a shot on goal.
I mean, Inter Miami did its part, though. They stayed compact, they stayed organized, they didn't give up a whole lot. They avoided making mistakes, although at the very end, there was one play, I think a long cross is delivered from deep in Inter Miami's defensive half by the Earthquakes, and Damian Lowe tries to play it or get a touch on it, and he redirects it out for a corner kick with the ball bouncing just past the right post. And Drake Callender actually had an exchange of words with Damian Lowe there. You see it on the broadcast because he was saying don't overexert yourself. It's kind of reminiscent of the own goal against Orlando City without being an own goal. Like Damian Lowe trying to make a play on the ball, and then it being a little more complicated than it needed to be. But the defense held up well. Andrea, your thoughts on the team switching to that back five and the defensive performance they put forth? I know you're going to say the Earthquakes are not a good team. I agree with that. They don't have very much individual quality, and you could see that when they needed that little bit of quality to break down and organize and compact and discipline Inter Miami side, they just couldn't. They couldn't find a way to do it. They just had the ball and passed it around and looked for ways to do it. They sent in cross after cross, and they never found the breakthrough.
I think that against those teams like San Jose that are in this league, it was a wise decision of Phil to have the defense play like that. But as he said today when I asked him about Montreal is not like San Jose. You can do that against those teams like San Jose that are struggling, that are
don't give me Montreal yet. Don't give me Montreal because we're going to get there. We're going to get there.
I'm just giving you an example that I don't want to get people to get their hopes up because if they play with a back five against Montreal, they're gonna get destroyed. Talking in reality, because Montreal has a different style of play. So this work, the thing is about the defense in this against San Jose is that they read the game correctly, they read the rival correctly, and that was the way to play against a team like San Jose. But it's not something that is going to be long term. It's not something that it will help in every game for Inter Miami. So I think they read correctly that they could use it in that situation. But I don't think it's something that could work long term.
So you agree with me that Phil Neville got the game plan right in this one, that he read the opponent correctly. He said this is how we're going to negate them as well as address Inter Miami's deficiencies. Clearly they were coming off a game in which they gave up 4 goals at home, so they needed to shore things up there, and there was a better balance. We talked last podcast about the imbalance. There was a better balance this go around, although,
and as you said, he knew that San Jose doesn't have a threat of when they can get to the sides, but they don't have a threat through the middle or in the area like Gonzalo Higuaín for Inter Miami or Leonardo Campana can be for Inter Miami. They don't have that. So he read it correctly, but I don't think it's something that you could see. That is why I brought up Montreal, because even Phil knows, and he said it, that you cannot do that against a team like Montreal. So I think we're going to see something different, and I think that is good. Listen, because at the beginning of the season, Phil had his formation and he tried to play every game with that formation. Now we are seeing variations. Even during a game, he changes to a back 3, then to a back 5, etc., etc. So I think he's learning to read the other teams in this league.
You said they don't have an attacking threat through the middle. Listen, Jeremy Ebobisse, the Earthquake striker who played in this game, he has 12 goals on the year. So he was terrible. He was bad in this game. Right. He's reliant.
He's not a threat against Damian Lowe.
He's reliant on his service.
Christopher McVeigh, because he is smaller.
He's a striker. He's a striker that's reliant, like Campana, different type of player, but reliant on service, which is that's why the Earthquakes are strong on the wings, and why playing a back 5 helped them, because Ebobisse didn't have any space to make any runs. He was surrounded, and then there was not much service that was coming in cleanly from the outside because of.
And when you have tall central defenders like Damian Lowe and McVeigh, it makes it hard for a player like Ebobisse, who is not as tall as they are, to get the balls in the area. So that was a good read. I really liked when I saw the starting 11. I really like that Damian Lowe played with Christopher McVeigh, because that is what they bring when they play. Both of them play, and when he brought Sailor in, also he added more height so that even though San Jose got a lot of crosses in, the crosses were not successful because you have 3 tall defenders that are gonna get every ball.
Before we switch gears here, I'm going to add one thing about this game that just in general, it's something that's not even just about this game. Inter Miami has this habit, for some reason, of before every game, right, when they announce their lineups, and maybe this hasn't been all season, maybe this has been just like recent memory, recent history, last few weeks, maybe the last couple of months, they put out a lineup graphic, as they always do, but the formation that's on there on social media is not the formation they actually play. Now, why does Inter Miami do this? I don't know. I don't have inside information as to exactly the reason, but I can surmise or guess that they think it helps them gain the slightest competitive advantage in not showing the opponent what type of formation they're going to play. That they're throwing off the opponent by putting on a different formation in their graphic as opposed to the actual one that they're going to play with. Because, I mean, what other reason could there possibly be? I mean, if you're trying to inform the general public about your starting lineup, what other reason, Jose, could you possibly... Why would you possibly go with a formation or a look or a system that isn't the one that you're actually playing in that game?
No, that's it. You're absolutely right. That's the goal. And let me tell you,
do you think that works? Do you think like the other team is like, oh well, look, they're playing this, and that throws them off so incredibly? Like I think it's a bit silly. I think it's a bit silly.
Yeah, but you take your chance. I mean, if it happens, great. I mean, you have a tiny advantage because
Miami needs to take the chance, all the chances that they have.
They need all the advantages as possible. Yeah.
Talking about telling
fair
the graphic artists to put the formation in this and like that and not like it really is. You know, Inter Miami needs to do everything that they can to get a win.
Fair point. That's eso jugada de equipo chico. Esa es jugada de equipo chico.
No, I wouldn't say that. It's not unusual. You listen, I as a broadcaster, I will tell you this. We get calls every week with coaches prior to the game. And in those calls, some coaches will tell you the lineup, some others will not. And you get the lineup even before it goes out. Right. Let's just say it usually comes out an hour before. Mm-hmm. We probably get it an hour and a half before. And yes, the lineup always is the tactical setup is not right. Most of the time, most of the coaches, even for broadcasters, which we are not allowed to publish all the information before it comes out on social media, it's the lineup. It's a mess. I've seen two center backs, no right back or left back. I've seen crazy things. So it happens. And
or maybe the graphic designer takes like, oh, Leroy Jenkins this, and I'm gonna do it like I want.
Yeah, well, it's not uncommon. It's not uncommon. So, I mean, you take the shot, and if it works, then good for you. But I think we're all ready at this point. We're all like ready to see something. Not necessarily. We can all agree that
I can read the team sheet and see who the starters are. And I told Franco the last game, I told him they're not gonna play like that.
No, of course. I mean, at this point, we know that the graphic that's in the tweet or on social for Inter Miami is not necessarily what we're actually going to see on the field. And, like, I'm very aware and keen when the game starts to see what the formation is, what the shape is, and then I try to share that.
Miami can be tricky though, because I mean, Robert Taylor. How many positions have we seen Robert Taylor play in this year? So if it's starting lineup, it's a little bit tricky. I mean, and the game against San Jose with Campana and Higuaín playing, you would have expected Higuaín to be a number 10, and he wasn't at time. So, I mean, Inter Miami is very tricky. It's very tricky.
Inter Miami, I would say, is one of the trickiest teams because I think Phil has learned that he knows that he has players that can play anywhere.
So just for reference sake, the formation that was used in the graphic before the game was a 4-2-3-1. A clear 4-2-3-1 on Inter Miami's Twitter handle and other social channels. And they had Gibbs and Yedlin as the two fullbacks with McVeigh and Lowe in the middle. They had Mota and Gregory as the first line of the midfield. Then the second line of the midfield was Taylor as on the right, Pozuelo on the left, Higuaín as the 10, and Campana up top as the 9. Inter Miami did not play anything close to that with what they actually deployed on the field. But anyway, it's just something that I've been meaning to bring up because I get you want to win as many of the competitive advantages as possible, and you want to get them in your favor. I think that one's just a bit silly. I get it, but I think it's a bit silly.
It's funny at some point. Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, sometimes you have a laugh when you see the tactical setup and you see the players and you're like,
then
no.
just list the players like other teams do.
But they don't want that. They want to try to throw off the other team by but like at that point is like this is where it like gets. And I get it, but this is where like if you dive into it a little deeper, like do you think, for example, the opposing coach an hour before the game is on his Twitter handle looking at the lineup graphic. No, he's probably focused on the team warming up and going through the motions as they get ready for the game. So
They have people. They have people.
of
that
course,
go through all that.
100% they do. But again, I think it's a bit silly. But anyway, I understand. We've talked about pregame. We have to talk postgame, and I debated whether we should talk about this or not. But I'm una persona frontal. I'm a straightforward and a forward person. So yes, let's talk about it. After the game, I had an exchange, a discussion, a debate. You could say an argument with.
No, I would say you were attacked. Let me correct you there.
Okay.
You were attacked. You didn't have a debate. You had a debate after, but you were attacked first.
Okay.
You responded.
Andrea coming in hot. Okay, so look, after the game, sideline reporter, Inter Miami sideline reporter, Kaylin Kyle, who I know, I've met her personally. We've had talks on the phone. I've played pickup with her and other friends at different points. So I don't have anything personal against Kaylin Kyle. I don't know if she has anything personal with me. I wouldn't think so. But after the game, she quote tweeted something that I said during the game. And it was strictly futbolístico. It was just a soccer point. You know, Campana had a chance in this game to make it 2-0, and he didn't. And I had tweeted out about how his drop in form continues because it was a chance, you know, he should have put away, but he's been struggling as of late. After the game, after she did her on-air job and her responsibility and her duties, she saw a tweet, I imagine, and quote tweeted it and said something along the lines of dip in form or injuries, which is fair. It's a soccer point. We're talking about soccer. I have no problem with that. Listen, tweets are meant for discussion and discourse, and there can be disagreement and there can be agreement, so no problem. So I wrote back to her. He had 1 goal in 6 games prior to suffering these recent injuries, which is a clear drop in form, in my opinion, from where he was earlier in the year. I don't know if she didn't have any more argument for her case or what happened there, but after that, instead of sticking to the soccer and sticking to what we were talking about, she got personal. And she tried to, criticize me for my way of covering Inter Miami, and she called me negative and critical of the team. Actually, she also said in the previous tweet, like, funny that or something along the lines of like this coming from someone who's never played the game. Which, listen, I have played the game. I've not been a professional player, but I've played the game my whole life. Now, okay, yes, absolutely, I am not going to sit here and say playing pickup or playing in a league with friends is the same as playing professionally at a high level. Absolutely not. That said, I don't agree with that thought that you have to play at a high level to be able to analyze the game. And that's what I said to her. I was like, so are you saying only ex-pros such as yourself can analyze or talk about the game? And she said no. She said that other people can, but they don't talk nonsense.
The thing that I didn't like is that she made it personal, and I told you at the beginning that wasn't a discussion. That was an attack on your persona, as we say in Spanish, a tu persona. And I didn't like that because, listen, Twitter is free. Everyone can give their opinion. And you don't work for the team. Your responsibility is not to be kind for the team. Your responsibility is to say the truth of what is happening. And if the team doesn't like that, if the employees of the team don't like that, it's their problem. They don't need to be telling you what can you say. So when she attacked you personally at the beginning, I got mad and I told you that is not right. And then she kept attacking you and she kept it personal. Because when she says what the worst thing that that ex-soccer player can do is go, like, because they work on TV and think that they are stars on TV and go and come and say that only them can speak about the sport, that is the worst that they can do. So she attacked you personally, and then she diminished everyone else that worked on football, on soccer, whatever you want to call it, by saying that only ex-players and only people who know about the game.
Well, she didn't say that directly. She alluded to that.
She meant it.
She alluded to that.
This comment.
No, right. And then when I responded back to her saying, "Oh, is that what you're saying?" and I used like the little emoji with the chin scratching, she was like, no, but other people don't talk nonsense. I just find you to be very negative and critical of Inter Miami, which that's fine. That's your opinion. But if you don't like the way I cover the correct, I agree. Yeah. If you don't like the way I cover the team,
it was a personal attack on you, and
right. I could sit here and say I don't like this or this about your commentary, or I do like this and this, but I don't, because I don't cover the broadcast. I don't cover like soccer journalists. I cover soccer teams. And look, again, if you don't like the way I do things or how I say things, then that's fine. I have no problem with that. But to try to make it a personal thing, like when we were having a soccer debate, then I will take issue with that.
That was low, and I took issue with it because that was low on her part.
And I did write back. I did rebuttal. I have to say my part. I did say that. I did say back to her. I was like, unlike you, I am not paid by Inter Miami to put a positive spin on things. I did say that. Now that was me, in my eyes, defending myself, because clearly she's having a go. And look, it's not personal. If I see Kaylin Kyle on next weekend on Saturday at the stadium, I'll say hello. She's invited to come here and talk Inter Miami, and we can talk soccer like we have before when she was at Onside Radio. The Inter Miami, it wasn't a radio, but it was a
website.
It was a website where they were streaming. Yeah, it was like a web radio. She had a show, and she had me on as a guest multiple times. I have nothing personal with her. But if you're gonna come at me like that, then yes, I will defend myself.
And then the worst part was what she put about Diego Alonso. Like, why the hell is she bringing something up and trying to diminish you as one, as a person, and two, as a reporter? Because you don't have to do the things the way she does them.
Correct.
No one has to do the things that we do, and like anyone else. You can do whatever you want. Your style is your style. And that's the thing about media, the beautiful thing about media, because everyone has their style. So for her to first attack you personally and then make those comments that she made, that you were negative and all of that, I don't like that tropes, because here in the United States, usually American journalists say that against Latinos, because we analyze the game differently. And listen to me, I get mad because you just analyze the game and they tell you here, oh, you're so negative, you're so this, you're so that. That is the reality.
But I'm okay with that. Listen, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. If I come off negative on a team that's been, up to this point below the playoff line for much of its existence, then I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that, because I don't get paid by the team. Like I said, I am not a PR person. I don't need to put positive spin on things. Exactly. I'm a journalist. I'm there to be impartial. I'm there to be unbiased. I'm there to provide you with the information that I see in front of me, with that information that I gather, and for what I see with my eyes in front of me. I cover soccer.
We're not here to be cheerleaders.
Exactly.
For the team. This is why it bothered me. And then when you answered her and she came at you with the Diego Alonso stuff, making fun of you, I got mad, because that is not fair to you. And that is not fair. Listen, this time it happened to you, but it can happen to anyone. So it was unacceptable, and I hope that she reaches out to you and apologizes.
Listen, she doesn't have to apologize.
No, I know you don't think the game about it, but it's mad. It was bad. It's not mad. It was bad, and that is why she deleted the tweets after.
I don't need an apology. She doesn't have to apologize. It's, I get it. It's we're talking professional sports. Sometimes we make mistakes. I've made mistakes. Tempers can flare. A lot of things go into it. So I don't need an apology. If she wants to, great. I'm not asking her for one. It's fine. But I will say this, because recently, a Peruvian journalist, one of the biggest TV Peruvian journalists, whether people like his style or don't like his style, recently he was criticized publicly by a lot of people for something he said on TV, which was he was critical of a Peruvian player that posted something on Instagram about being at the beach, and this was not long after Peru got eliminated from the World Cup playoff game. And he said, look, whether I'm right or wrong, whether you agree or disagree, I'm going to say what I think. I'm going to say what I feel, because that's what a journalist's job is, in addition to gathering information and presenting news. I'm going to tell you what I think and what I feel. And that's a journalist's job. And he added, I am not here to make friends. I didn't get into journalism to make friends, because journalism is not about making friends. Journalism is about providing you with real information presented to you. Listen, teams cover things up all the time. I think one of the reasons why I've been able to break news is because I am fully independent, and there's times that I get information out there that the team does not like or the team does not want out there, but that's what journalism is. That's what the job is. It's to present you guys with information as well, and since we're covering a sports team, also my analysis and my input on the team. Again, if you don't like it, you don't like the style, you don't like the approach, that's fine. Completely okay with that. You know, you don't have to follow, you don't have to listen, you don't have to read. But I'm going to be as true to you listeners or to people that read my work as I can be. I'm going to be myself, and I am a person that says what he thinks in all aspects of life. Soccer is just one part of it. So let's just leave it there. I don't think there's much else to add. Jose has been very quiet. I don't know if he fell asleep. I don't know what's going on over there, but I think he's steering clear of this one.
I'm still here. I can say a couple of things about it. You know, the first one would be, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Campana is not playing at the same level that he was playing early on. But
that's an opinion, right? That's an opinion, right? And that's fine. I don't mind the soccer. Yeah. I didn't mind the soccer part of it. It's like she didn't have anything else to add to the debate, it looked like, so she got personal. And that's where I took exception. But sorry, go ahead, Jose.
So, yeah, that's the first one. I think, you know, most people will agree on that, and that's not there's no shame in that if you're Campana, right? Because I mean, you go through ups and downs, so that's completely normal. The second thing that I would say, and maybe the thing that got me thinking, was, you know, the comment about, you know, being a former player and having the opportunity to analyze the game. I would say this about that. There are people that also prepare to be a broadcaster, to go inside a booth. And so if you criticize somebody that's commenting the game, and you say they don't have, you shouldn't be doing that, and that was the comment initially. You shouldn't be doing that because you didn't play the game. Then the same, we can go the other way around, right? You shouldn't be inside a booth because you don't know how to handle being inside a booth. I mean, it's not an easy job. Yes, you might be able to do it because you know the game, but you don't know what happens before. You don't know what happens after. You don't know how to prepare. You have to learn a lot of stuff to go inside a broadcaster booth. It's not like I know the game, okay, I'm in. It's not like that. So that's the one thing that I would say. I never liked those comments, and I take offense to those comments when a former player comes at me that way.
Well, let's lay it all out there here, because look, I am of the opinion and the belief that if you have playing experience at the highest level, that is something that you can use as a resource for an analyst job, or absolutely, right? If you were a coach, you have that to rely on as well, to inform yourself of certain things, the things that happen on the field, that maybe a journalist that is just a journalist, that, like myself, that has not played at the highest levels, might not have at his disposal or her disposal. It's something that you don't have because you don't have that experience. So listen, and I've told this to Kaylin Kyle. I've said this to Kaylin Kyle on Onside Radio. I've told her this. I was like, the fact that you have experience at playing at the highest level, that's awesome. That's like a great resource for you as a media person. That's another tool for your arsenal. I don't have that tool. I can only be Franco Panizo journalist, and that's who I am. Now, I don't think that discredits me from being able to analyze the game.
No, it doesn't.
I don't think that, like, you know, you could look at the broadcast team that she's with. Ray Hudson is a former coach. He's been involved with the game at the highest levels. Andres Cordero, who I think is great, and I've said that from one of the early podcasts when they named the team. I think he's great, and guess what? He's never played at the highest level, so I don't think it takes away. That's just my opinion.
Franco, this is what I'm saying. If you, as a former player, can go inside a broadcast booth and learn everything that you need to learn to do that job, which is not only knowing the game, that entitles a lot more than somebody that never played the game professionally, but that has been watching for a while. That person also can learn how to comment. That person can also learn the game. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, and
throughout experience in talking to players, coaches, executives, you learn the game as well. It's not about, okay, I played in everything that I know now. I learned on the
it's
field
reality.
and
Yeah.
on the team that I was. You keep on learning.
Yeah.
As you interview people, you ask questions at times that might not be relevant to the story that you're working on, but they are relevant to the knowledge that you're building on as you move forward in your career.
And
So,
some players that got the
cover,
experience and have won championships, the UEFA Champions League, and
Right. They go to try to
they're
be
terrible,
well,
coaches and
or
then they're terrible, or they try to
they
be
try to
analysts
be
and
I
they're
want to
analysts
close
and
terrible.
are
out.
terrible.
I
And
want to close out on the point just to make it clear, that that comment is unfortunate. And I know
yeah,
what she answered after that. She didn't mean it that way. But the minute that you put that out there,
yeah, people
then
take it that way.
it's unnecessary. It's unnecessary. So I mean, again, I think it's in the end, it's good to talk about Inter Miami. It's good to have these discussions. I always go back years ago when we had nothing. We had nothing. Now we have a broadcast team. We had an independent reporter. We have a lot of things that were not here before. So I think, listen, we'll move on from this. Um,
Of course, of
at
course.
the end of
This is not
Yeah,
a huge. I just felt like it
yeah,
needed to be talked about because obviously it was a little bit of a talking point among some of the Twitter
you even
followers
have
out there and some of the
a
listeners.
parody account of yourself.
I have a parody account now in the aftermath of all of this,
I,
which is
well,
hilarious. But we'll talk about that.
I have one more thing to say, and it comes down to the negative
Yeah,
aspect of things that he mentioned that you're negative, and maybe this is because we live in a country where every single team has a home broadcast, and that home
Hmm.
broadcast is expected to be positive.
Right.
And MLS is a league where, if you write good things about the league, then you're in good
good.
shape. If you start criticizing, then you don't get trips, you
Yeah,
don't get invitations, you don't. It's different. That's the way it is. That's the way it is here. It's part of the marketing, right? The people that only write about the good things that happen to your team or to your league, they are considered to be good. And sometimes if you over criticize or if you say something that teams or the league don't like, then they have second thoughts about what you're doing. So that's the way it is. Maybe that's the style here.
I mean,
yeah,
that's
And
that's
that's
the
definitely an
style.
element
And
here
I
at play.
told Franco that is why I get mad, because they always say, oh, it's because you're Latino and you always criticize it like that. No, it's because you talk about football and you have to say the reality. It's not where you're from or your costumes or how you grew up watching, or if you're a player or not. It's the style to analyze the game and say what you watch without being disrespectful. That is the only thing that you need to do. So when someone comes and says, "Oh, you guys are always negative," you guys, and I get offended because we have received those comments, especially from
That's
MLS,
okay.
Jose
But
and me.
that's listen. That's
So
if that's how they feel, that's
that
how
is
they feel.
not
But
correct. So
listen,
they
our job is
shouldn't.
not PR. We're not PR people.
Yeah,
We're
we
not
are
PR
not
people.
PR.
If
Exactly.
you want to hear nothing but positives about Inter Miami, this is not the show for you. This is not the podcast for you. I'm not the reporter you want to follow because I'm going to keep it real with you every single time. Every single time. I'm going to tell you what I think. I'm going to tell you what I feel. I could be right. I could be wrong. You could agree. You could disagree. Whatever you want. And I know you guys are of a similar thought. So that's fine. If you don't like it, or if you want to hear something that's more positive, or if you want to follow a reporter that's more positive, there are options for you out there. But we are going to stay true to who we are and how we do things here. So 100%, I am on board with you guys, and I thank you guys for having this discussion with me because obviously it's been a talking point for a small talking point for a couple days now. So all right, let's leave it there. Let's take a break. We'll come back, preview the game against CF Montreal, do our Q&A session and our final thoughts. We'll do that after this. Okay, guys, so moving to Saturday, Inter Miami visits CF Montreal in an Eastern Conference match. in Canada. Inter Miami's up to 8th place in the Eastern Conference standings. CF Montreal is in 3rd. Montreal has a 12-win, 3 draws, 8-loss record. They have scored 38 goals but given up 37. So, tough task for Inter Miami this weekend. Jose, getting back to the football, getting back to the soccer. What do you think of this game? How does Inter Miami, in your opinion, need to approach playing against one of the top teams in the conference?
I'm going to be really honest here. Really, really honest. I think you take a chance in this game and set up the teammate in a way that you go for the counterattack. You don't risk Higuain, and you go with Emerson and Adi at the top. If they are able to finish a counterattack opportunity, which is a big if, then you have a chance at maybe a point. I think this is a very tough game. Montreal is coming off a big, big comeback against Columbus, which is a good result, by the way, for Inter Miami. Late in the game, they were down a goal, scored 2 goals against Columbus midweek at 3 points. They have the momentum coming home. I think Montreal, they are heavy favorites to win this game. So I don't think Inter Miami, they need to risk it all here. You know, it would not be completely unexpected for them to lose the game. So try to play good defense. Maybe you get a scoreless draw. Maybe you get a late goal. Maybe there's a red card. Maybe VAR helps you in some way. Just play good defense. Play solid defense and see where it takes you. I think that's the only way to go. There's no way to risk a lot in this game. This is after winning the game against San Jose, then you don't have a lot of pressure coming into this game. If they drop this game, it's not the end of the world. So, I mean, don't put your expectations really high on this game. If it's 0-0 by the 75th minute, you're winning already. That's the way I would see it.
So you think they should park the bus? You think they should defend? What I mean, what? How? So park the bus.
Park the bus
from minute
park
one.
The bus,
from the first minute
play
on.
The counterattack. From the first minute, play the counterattack game.
Okay, that doesn't mean park the bus. You can play counterattack without parking the bus.
No,
but for Inter Miami, that doesn't work. They would get scored on easily.
So, Andrea, what do you think? How does Inter Miami approach this game?
I agree with Jose, and I think Phil knows it because of what he said in the media availability. Listen, Montreal won in the middle of the week, and they rested all their players. I think Kyoto and Piet and all of the other that were rested came up like in the 80th minute, and they finished winning that match in the last minute. So Montreal is very dangerous, especially at home. They have a lot of speed in their attacking third. They have a good midfield, so it's gonna be hard for Inter Miami, especially if you try to go and look for the game. I agree with Jose that their best bet is to be a defensive-minded team and to take advantage of the counter attack, because if not, if you leave spaces, if you have Yedlin or Gibbs or McVeigh, whoever plays from the left, if you have them going up, they're gonna be destroyed, because that is one of the strongest things that Montreal has, especially with, I don't want to plug him because Franco will say, because I am going to say, because he's Honduran, but he has 10 goals or 11 goals, I don't remember. It's Romel Kyoto, who is very fast. So
there
you
it
cannot
is. There it is. He is very fast, though, and he is effective.
Yeah, and so you cannot have these concentrations. Either he plays by the right, he plays by the left, he can play. You cannot have Yedlin caught up not defending. You cannot have McVay caught up not defending. So the team needs to be a defensive-minded team for to get at least a point against Montreal. I agree with Jose. If they tie this game, is a good result. If they don't lose, it's a good result. If they tie, it's a good result. If they win, it will be a big surprise, a big welcome, and a big 3 points for them because Montreal is hard, especially playing in Canada.
So 5-man backline or 4-man backline?
I would play personally. I would like them to play with 4 and maybe add a man in the midfield. But that is what I would like.
I would make a request for 2 goalkeepers. Maybe the league will.
I mean, what do you think Phil Neville does? What does Phil Neville do? Does he stick with 5 at the back, or does he? It's interesting. Let's just compare it here today in the pregame press conferences. I asked Phil Neville about what he saw from the team in the formation in the 5-3-2 that they came out in against San Jose, and he talked about how he tried to focus on the fact that it got more attacking players on the field with Campana and Higuain, Robert Taylor, Pozuelo. He focused on that aspect. When I asked Gregory a similar question, or asked Gregory about just defensively taking a step forward against San Jose from where they were against Cincinnati, he talked about how the formation helped them from a defensive posture, which I would agree with. Like, obviously, yes, you had Pozuelo, you had Campana, you had Higuain out there, which absolutely Phil Neville has a point there. But to me, obviously, when you're playing with wingbacks, you're looking to shore things up defensively and clog things up at the back. You're not necessarily looking to come out and go all out into the attack. So I think I think Phil Neville will stick with the back 5. I think he threw it up in the air today whether he would go to the back 4 or the back 5. He likes to call it a back 3 sometimes to try to make it look less defensive minded. I imagine, but I think he sticks with the back 5, especially after what he saw against San Jose and the way they clogged up the spaces. Like you guys mentioned, Montreal has some very dangerous weapons, more dangerous, more talented than San Jose does. So you don't want to leave yourself too exposed because they can punish you. I will say this though. I want to ask you, Jose, this because we have often said that we think in a lot of circumstances the best defense is a good offense or a good attack.
Yeah, not right now.
So in this game, that theory does not apply.
No, it's. I mean, there's a big difference between both clubs. I think he goes back to the five in the back, but more like what we saw last year and early this year. I would say Gibbs will play on the left, and 3 center backs, which would probably be Mavica, McVay, and Lowe, and on the right side Yetlin. In the middle, obviously Gregory and Mota, and then I think you take Gonzalo out of the lineup and let Pozuelo play as a false 9. He can help a lot defensively as well, and just let Taylor and Lassiter run through the wings. I mentioned Emerson before, but I think Taylor would be a better option. And just let them run through the wings and see what they can do. I think that's the way to go. I mean, I don't see it in any other way. Maybe the team is able to give us one of those 2021 performances in which they couldn't score, but they were not scored on as well. So I think that's the way to go. I think that's the way to go.
Andrea. I would like a back 4. Like the same as Yellin with Damian Lowe, McVay, and Gibbs. And I would add a man in the midfield. I would maybe bring Victor Ulloa in to play.
So what would be the formation there then? 4-3-3? You're going in?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't think Higuain will start. I don't think he will risk it because he knows that if Campana he would know by tomorrow, because I guess Campana got here today. He's gonna get a scan. He will know what the situation with Campana is, and I don't think he would like to risk Gonzalo since the start.
My thought with Gonzalo.
Wait, hold on, Jose. Andrea, so you're saying 4-3-3, Ulloa. I mean,
Mota and Gregory.
Mota and Gregory, and then Pozuelo. Where does Pozuelo play?
Pozuelo plays as a false 9, and Robert Taylor and Ariel Lassiter.
Okay. So all right. Okay. So you're looking for speed down the wings. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
to
Okay.
maybe get something, but you get that stability not just at the back, but Victor Ulloa can
But do
come
you think Phil
down
Neville will do
like he
that?
does.
Do you
I
think?
know.
Well, okay, so right,
I
because
think it
we
will.
can opine what we think,
Yeah,
what we would do. But
yeah.
now I'm going to ask you what you think Phil Neville does. 5-man backline or 4-man backline?
5 in the back
I
line.
agree. I think he goes 5. What would I do? I'm of the belief of a good attack is is the best course of defense. Sometimes I still stick with that here. I agree with you as Montreal is more dangerous, more lethal. But I think you can't show them like you can't with any opponent. You can't show them too much respect, and that's just my theory, my personal opinion, and how I view the game. Like you can't give them too much respect because if you give them too much respect,
No,
they're going to grow in confidence, and that
I
that
don't.
can
I
help.
don't
What?
agree with
What
that
what what
because
happens if? All right,
then
so
what happens is you're gonna get Houston Dynamo like they did with Philadelphia and got scored 6-0.
no.
So you cannot do that.
What? Listen. Montreal has scored a lot of goals. They've scored 38. They've also given up 37. So they are susceptible to have breakdowns at the back. You can inflict damage on them. And Inter Miami now has more attacking weapons than ever before, including that number 10 that we've talked about for much of the year about how the team lacked it. Now they have that. Now they have a Pozuelo that can pull the strings, that can score himself. I personally me would go 4, but I think Phil Neville will go with 5. We'll see how the approach is. We'll see the lineup graphic that comes before it, and obviously the result will tell us, and the performance will tell us whether Inter Miami got it right. Jose, sorry, I know you wanted to add something in there before we switch gears.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to talk about Higuain. I mean, there's no reason for Phil to risk Pipita just because it's not going to be a good game for him. I mean, you don't expect Inter Miami to dominate possession,
Exactly.
and Inter Miami is going to be far away from Montreal's goal, and if Higuain is far away and it's not inside the box, then he's not going to
Why
be.
risk it?
Yeah, he's not going to be a key factor in the game. Now, if things change and in the second half, you know, maybe Montreal is in trouble and you need a goal scorer, then you bring him in if you're in that position. But I think nobody expects Inter Miami to dictate the tempo of the game, to create more chances than Montreal. So you need to be realistic about the matchup. It's not an easy one for Inter Miami. So they need to play good D. If they don't play good D, they're in trouble. They're not going to.
There's some slang from Jose. They got to play some good D. Okay, I've never really heard you go use some slang for for your analysis. But okay, so you guys both think that Higuain does not start. I think he starts. And I don't see the risk because it's not the same type of injury. He's not like it was a concussion scare. He took a hit to a blow to I guess the face or so it's not like he's dealing with like something in his leg that's hindering him. It was just he took a blow and he had to come out of that game. Maybe he was a little dizzy. I don't know what the case was for why he had to come out exactly. We can only surmise from the images, but I think he starts. And Phil Neville today said Higuain's 50-50. Last time he said that about Campana and Lassiter before the Cincinnati game. They both dressed and they both made appearances in that game. So, me reading between the lines, I think Higuain plays and I think Higuain starts.
I don't know.
Higuain, you like if you get a free kick, we just saw recently against Cincinnati, Higuain is one of the players you probably want taking it or standing over it. So, I think Phil Neville starts him. I'm not saying whether I would start him or not. I mean, I would start him. And I get that, he might not help on the defensive side all that much, but again, I don't think you can be that defensive minded, my opinion. And I do think Phil Neville starts him. I do think Phil Neville starts him because for one of the reasons you guys have already laid out earlier when we were analyzing the San Jose Earthquakes game, he is the most lethal finisher available right now. Without him on the field, Pozuelo's a goal threat. Your wingers, if they're going to be able to take chances at a higher level than they have for much of the year, well then, unless you have that, then you're taking away your biggest scoring threat. So
yeah, but you're thinking about a game in which they have a lot of chances. They're not going to have a lot of chances. I mean,
all you need is one. All you need is one.
If you need Gonzalo Higuain, if you want to have Gonzalo Higuain in the starting lineup, you have to realize it's going to be a tough game. You have
That's fine.
Very patient with him.
That's fine. Pozuelo and Higuain have shown a good understanding so far together, and Higuain, I think they could do something. They could do something. I'm not saying they will, but they could do something, and I think Phil Neville will take that into account while still prioritizing and stressing the defense. We'll see how it goes. Quickly, you guys, what do you think happens? Win, loss, or draw for Inter Miami? Jose. Quickly.
Not good news. Not good news.
So, loss?
0 points coming out of Montreal.
Okay. Andrea.
I can't change my view. I told you in the podcast before these 3 games, I don't think they get points out of Montreal.
Okay, so I'm with you in that sense that I won't change my stance. Before this 3-game stretch, I said Inter Miami, I thought they would get 4 points. I said I thought they would tie Cincinnati, which they did. I said they would beat San Jose, which they did. I don't think that they win tomorrow. Hey, if they get a draw from this one, though, that's a draw or any... Yeah, Phil Neville...
A draw is a win. Like
Phil Neville firma el empate hoy sí o no. Would Phil Neville... Like, if you could offer him a draw right now, you get that 1 point, yes or no? Phil Neville would sign on the dotted line, yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
100%. Yeah, so, a draw or anything, a draw plus up 1 point or 3, it's a very big result for Inter Miami. So, let's leave it there with regards to this game. Now, switching gears to the Q&A session very, very quickly. We will answer a couple of these. First one comes from Tank721. Do you all believe there's trouble in paradise? Lowe almost made a costly own goal again by not listening to Calendar. Then Drake got upset. They had a few harsh words, and Lowe got shoved. I say it's time to put a true leader in goal, and that's the Flying Dutchman Marsman. So, I don't think there's trouble in paradise. I think I saw Instagram post today where they were out in Montreal walking around the city in a group, and Damian Lowe and Drake Calendar were among the group of players that on this post that were out together in like street gear. They weren't even wearing Inter Miami gear. They were in like regular clothes. So, I don't think there's trouble in paradise. I do think that there was, in the moment, an exchange, a heated exchange or exchange of words. You can even see Christopher McVeigh like trying to get Lowe to focus again because he's like, hey, focus, we have a corner kick to defend. So, that happens. Tempers flare. It happens in all teams in any course of a season.
I do think Marshman needs to play. Okay. It is time to bring him in. Yeah, Calendar is a good goalkeeper, but he doesn't have a lot of chemistry with the defenders. He doesn't. So Marshman has better chemistry with the defenders. Maybe they can build that. Maybe this... I thought we were going to see Marshman against San Jose, so maybe this game against Montreal is the game that we see him again.
I would say it's good for Lowe and Calendar to have those type of discussions. Whether we see it on TV and some people might think otherwise, I do like when I see that intensity from players. So I think that's a positive, and I'm sure things got sorted out over.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah,
it quickly changes the page.
Chemistry. Yeah, it builds chemistry.
Absolutely. All right, next question comes from Elder Bar, and this one is going to test all of us here because his question is, it could be viewed as negative. Who's a worse finisher, Lassiter or Emerson? Jose.
I would say at this point, Emerson is the worst finisher between the two of them. I think Lassiter missed a clear chance. Emerson had a couple of chances, but at least there was a goalie in front of him, goalkeeper. The Lassiter miss was just horrible. But I think overall, Emerson needs to learn a little bit more about finishing. But then again, I think they're in a different process, both of them. I think Lassiter is a little bit more developed, and Emerson
he's
is
older.
just...
He's significantly older, a few years older. Okay, so you say Emerson. Andrea, this one's going to sting, I think.
No, I cannot. I agree totally with Jose. Emerson. Ariel is a player who is older, who is more developed, and has played a little bit more than Emerson has done. So I think he has that advantage on him. And this is the first time that Emerson plays outside of his country. Ariel has done it before, so he has more experience.
Okay, so it's 3 for 3. I also say right now the worst finisher of the two is Emerson Rodriguez. Both are not clinical finishers by any stretch of the imagination, but Lassiter's a bit more polished in that regard. He's a little bit more lethal from my vantage point, but also noting, like you guys, that he is older. Andrea, I'm sure that hurt deep down inside to have to say that after weeks and weeks and weeks of defending Emerson Rodriguez on the podcast.
I'm not gonna stand here and lie so that people see that we are not a negative podcast or a
well, some podcasts wouldn't even touch that. Some podcasts wouldn't even touch that question. But we're we're going to answer it because that's what our jobs and our roles are. And listen, if Inter Miami was at the top of the table for much of the year, I would guarantee you that we would all be singing praises, because it's not like we never say anything positive about Inter Miami. We talk about their golazos, we talk about when they've had good games, Flanel's made good substitutions, we talked about the game plan that we thought worked very well against San Jose. I think we are fair.
I would just say this: it's a lot more fun to talk about a winning team, and if and you're absolutely right. If Inter Miami was fighting for first place right now, it would not only be a positive plot, but we would have a lot more fun. We have fun right now, a lot of fun talking. But when you have negative things to say, nobody wants to say those things. But that's the reality. So we're glad to put it out there. But let me tell you, it's a lot more fun when you have to talk constantly about a winning team, because there are so many things within the game that are done well that at least we are soccer nerds, and we like to analyze every single aspect, and we like to see, beautiful build-ups and talk about it and talk about good performances individually. That's a lot more fun. So it's not that we don't want to do it. It's just that we can't do it right now if the team is not performing on the field. That's the reality of things.
Last question for the Q&A session, although it's not a question, it's a comment, and it's from Talk Inter Miami CF, who says, please tell me you saw your own troll account, laughing emoji with teardrops. And yes, I have seen it. Again, it's in the aftermath of the exchange with Kayla and Kyle. There's been a Twitter handle made, a parody account of myself with an actual profile picture of my face with photoshopped. Yes. Yeah, it's photoshopped with a mask.
Your yearbook photo or what?
No, that was my photo when I was that was my headshot at the Sun Sentinel. Obviously, they added the glasses with the mustache over my face, and I think they made my hair different because it looks like I have a mohawk of sorts or something. I don't know, but yes, I have seen it. So all I will say to that is, Mama, I've made it. Okay, we will leave it there for the Q&A session. We'll give our final thoughts, starting with Andrea.
Well, my final thought for today is I was just talking with someone in the morning that reminded me that I wanted to say this a long time ago. Inter Miami needs to maybe relive some of the history of the sport in South Florida. Someone was talking like they got El Pibe to come for some games in the last couple of years. They should get the best player that Miami Fusion had, and it was Alex Pineda Chacon, who was the MVP in one of those seasons that the team played. So Inter Miami maybe should recognize the history of the sport in this part of the country, and maybe invite Alex Pineda Chacon, who was a good player for Miami Fusion.
Jose.
My final thought is going to be negative.
How dare you?
You're going to get a parody account of yourself now.
I'm begging for one right now. Listen, another South Florida team got sanctioned for wrongdoing. The Miami Dolphins and Stephen Ross again. So South Florida teams, please get it together. Follow the rules.
Stop being tramposos.
Something's in the water here in South Florida.
Get it together. That's my final point.
Okay, my final thought would be something we didn't touch on this podcast that is Inter Miami related, and that is that, as I reported for Miami Total Football's Substack on Thursday, Clement Diop has been traded to the New England Revolution in exchange for, I believe, $175,000 in general allocation money. I have to fact check that to make sure that is accurate, because I'm going off the top of my head. No, it's $125,000 in allocation money in 2023. So that's what they get for Clement Diop, who is off to the New England Revolution. He was the starter at the beginning of the year with Nick Marsman out. He played 3 games. I thought he did okay overall, but he's off to a different team where he maybe can get more playing time because clearly Drake Callender is the number 1 right now. Nick Marsman is 1B if you would like. So Clement Diop, who has started in MLS, he was starting last year before he left Montreal halfway through the season. You know, he could maybe fight for a better position or more minutes somewhere else. So he's off to New England just as he was about to face off against his, or at least see some of his former teammates in Montreal. But yeah, that's just news that happened this week. So, all right, that does it for this second edition of the pod. We will be back again early next week to recap, analyze, and review Inter Miami's match against CF Montreal and preview the next game against New York City FC. So, for Jose Armando, a.k.a. Island Jose, and for Andrea Llanes, a.k.a. Ajicita, I am Franco Penizo. You have been listening to